sales is an emotional journey.
Yeah.
And then when it's handed off to construction, it's a logical perspective. You're the guy that's creating the process and fielding the calls and managing through a network, through area managers and project managers and stuff as we expand, so that everybody's speaking the same language.
You know, how we get there is different every time. If it's missing, if it's broken, if it's not within our standards and our tolerance, we'll fix it.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Barndo Show. I'm your host, TJ, and today I'm here with my man, Nick Menz, Director of Construction. Feeling fresh, bro. Like, we just got back from Nashville, and I was like, I'm rocking my Barndo Co Music City. You popped in here with the Imogene and Willie on, the fresh threads, right?
Yeah. It was always my dream to go to Imogene and Willie, and we had a tight schedule, and you guys made it happen for me, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude, you're the denim king.
I am.
Right? Every day I feel good about myself until you come in the office and I'm like, look at this dude. Just pressed head to toe. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, being into raw denim is it's a commitment. You can only hang them by the belt loop. I wash them inside out in the tub with the detergent, never dry them, and I wash them about once a year so I can get natural fades. It's actually like a whole level of nerdism that like people just can't even comprehend. Like, it's worse than, like, you know, collecting stamps or something. So,
yeah, dude, I got too many kids for that, man. Like, I you know, anything that requires effort, I can't commit myself to it at this point in time. But,
I get it.
But you look good, bro. You're always fresh to death. You know what I'm saying? So, if you're worried about quality, guys, Nick is your guy. So let's talk a little bit about, like, you know, who you are, what you do as, you know, Director of Construction in the company, and, like, what does that role look like for you?
I think a big part of it for me is building and managing a team. So there's nothing that happens in production, obviously, that I can do myself. What I can do is set the standard, manage the quality, manage the standard, but it's on me to find a team of people that, you know, fit our culture, that can do the task. And, you know, it's just all about how you create the process, enforce the process, get everybody on the same page, you know, follow through, you know, have accountability, but at the same time, you know, have a level of coaching involved in it. And that's basically the basis of what I do. I try to manage quality, processes with subcontractors, relationships with subcontractors. It's a give and take. So I have to hold them accountable, but I also have to always decide what's fair. A project manager has horse blinders on. All he can see is how it affects him. It's my job to mediate the situation and say, you know, what is fair in this situation. So basically, between subcontractors, project managers, you know, it's my job to be there to you know, just enforce quality and try to always do what I feel like is fair.
Dude, and we're so thankful that you do. Because I remember the days at Barndo Co before Nick Menz, and looking back feels like an eternity ago. But you really came in and broke it down to the fundamentals again, because your background is coming out of, like, mass production building.
Yeah.
And we had hit a point in our company where we're not just building a few. We're building hundreds of barndominiums, and the system we had in place just couldn't do it. So, you know, talk a little bit about your history, where you came from, you know, just in general, like the amount of homes that you were putting out and kind of how you were overseeing that, and then what brought you to us.
So, yeah, so the beautiful thing about my prior experiences is I kind of had the best of both worlds. So I didn't work for a corporate company where everything was perfectly streamlined. I worked for a company that built 500 homes a year, but had a lot of their internal problems because they were family owned. They were very resistant to change. So I was there when everything was done on paper spec books, scheduling was done on paper, and I was there when we tried to roll out electronic scheduling, streamlining stuff. So I got to be part of the process of what works and what doesn't work. So I think that I got a lot of experience in, you know, kind of creating those processes and systems because, you know, they were kind of winging it in a way too. So part of what I know is that you have to find that happy medium between setting proper expectations, having specs that are clear to where everybody can be on the same page, where the sub knows what it is, the project manager knows what it is. It's easy for the salesperson to explain it to the client, and the client knows what it is. But at the same time, finding a way to give the client what they want within that parameter. So everything is about documenting changes. Everything, it's like an assembly line. So if something changes, this person has to upload it. This person has to transfer it into this file. This person has to make sure that they look in this file. It's just managing that assembly line so information goes from sales to the field and to the subcontractors with a smooth transition, and that's the ultimate goal.
Oh, I know, man. I remember we was like we had like a bag of secrets about how like non-systemized we were for this leap, and I just remember the conversation. You came in, and I was like, "How much do I tell this guy?" And it was like the more that I shared, you were like, "Well, we fix it this way, 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 this way." And so we were like, "This guy's the fit." What made you feel like we were a fit for you?
That's a really interesting question. So I worked for the same company for a really long time. I was in upper management, and I had tenure at that company. But one of the things that did not make me a culture fit there is I'm a very creative person, and I care a lot about culture. I care a lot about, there were a lot of things that I tried to push for years and years and years that I wanted to do, like with the project managers. We're a small family-owned company. We have to have that family element. We have to give back. We have to pour into our people. And there was a lot of resistance when it came to that. So I think ultimately I had the experience and I had self-belief that anywhere I went, I would be successful. But one of the biggest things is I wanted to feel like I had a seat at the table. I wanted to feel like my feedback mattered. And I think that it's just like anything else. The person that's in the field doing the process, their feedback has to matter. And I think that what I saw at the Barndo Co was not only culture, but everybody has a voice here. You're not just a number that presses a button. Everybody's opinion matters, and that opinion gets tabled, and then the best decision gets made. And I worked for a guy for a long time to where I felt like my ideas didn't matter, that it had to be his idea. And I was okay with that for a long time. I just felt like there was a ceiling where I was, and I feel like there's no ceiling where I am now, and there's nothing but possibilities. It's limitless. So I just felt like culturally, it was the right move for me. It was a great challenge, and when I feel valued and appreciated by the people I work for, like my work ethic I have work ethic no matter what. But to come to work every day and feel like my efforts are valued, you can't put a price on it. And I caught on really early that was the case here. And again, it was a challenge, and I love doing this kind of stuff. So,
well, the good news is I'm not very ambitious, so we don't we don't create new obstacles. You came in with a laundry list of things to fix, and you were like crushing it. And we took like this 6-month intensive to just really rewrite the playbook, go back through and revisit every single circumstance that we were seeing, things that were happening all the time, and really get to the root of why is it happening?
Yeah. And
you were super influential in that, and like saying we could avoid this at the design table.
Yes.
It goes all the way back up to this first point of contact. Mm-hmm. We could make this not even exist. And so coming in and building that process, and then I'm always throwing curveballs like great, we've got South Carolina under control, and now we're pioneering North Carolina, Tennessee, we're going to Georgia, we're doing all these things, and explain a little bit about that, because it's a two-edged sword when you're like, we got limitless opportunities and no ceiling, but it comes with a great amount of responsibility to help adapt that. And your role is constantly changing to where you're not just this area guy. You're not just the guy in the upstate. You're the guy that's creating the process and fielding the calls and managing through a network through area managers and project managers and stuff as we expand, so that everybody's speaking the same language. And what has that been like?
Yeah, that's another really good question. I think that I've learned a lot about myself, and I think that I am the type of person that's always trying to grow as a person. And I think that when I'm in my comfort zone all the time, I don't grow. I believe that to my core. And I believe that when I first got here, the solution was so simple. Because I can tell you, there is absolutely nothing I've learned not the hard way. I mean, everything I've learned about setting client expectations, setting expectations with subs, it is because it has made my life a nightmare. And I have dealt with the consequence of not doing these things. So I think that when I got here, the solution was simple, but that was short lived. Very, very, very soon into my time at the Barndo Co. I mean, I'm out of my comfort zone. There was no blueprint on what my job responsibilities were, what I should be doing day in, day out. I've just had to figure out where my priorities are, what decisions can I make that are best for the company. And it's been very challenging, but it's been great because I thrive in that kind of thing. I mean, to have the freedom to be able to, make the decision of, okay, you're paving the path. This is where we want to go. I have to figure out how we get there. So it comes with its own set of challenges, but I love it. And it gives me the freedom to work inside my space. And I think that I've always been at like 20% of my potential because I've been at a company that just kept a thumb on me. Like,
Right.
I just want you to do quality inspections, make sure these processes are being followed, and that's what you do every day. And just having that freedom and creativity to say, okay, this is the direction we're going. How do we get here? Has been probably one of the greatest life experiences I've ever had, especially in my career. So it's been challenging, and it's been a great experience, and it's been very stressful too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every win comes with its own demons and hurdles along the way. But no, here's the flip side of that is your ability to step in and just meet something head on and push back. Right? Is because we're a rocket ship traveling through time and space at an insane rate of speed. And you have the ability to like see a potential problem before it becomes one and push back really strong on that and voice your concerns. And we've created the environment where you have a room to listen, right? I got 2 ears and one mouth. And I promise you that, again, it was built on what me and Ross wanted in the beginning, but what got us there isn't going to take us here, where we're wanting to go. And so it took like building a team where you have the same concerns as we do, because if it was easy for you, it'd be twice as hard for me, and vice versa. So like the confidence that it gives someone in my seat to be able to go out and say, we have people all over the United States saying, when are you going to build here? And to be able to like structure what that might look like and build out this map of like, here's where we're going to go and here's how we're going to get there and all this stuff, and know that the quality of the build is going to be the same no matter what market you're in. And I don't have to think about that. You give me like the freedom to think about where we're going, not how we're getting there.
Yeah. I think we're paving a new path. Like, we're doing something that no one's ever done before with materials that other people aren't using. I think that at first the unorthodox of how we operate was like mind blowing to me. But I've just had to adapt. I've just had to adapt to the fact that we're working on the engine of a rocket ship while it's in the air. And I just have to pick my poison, prioritize where I feel like is necessary. And I do think that one of my strong points has always been thinking quick on my feet. It has always been one of my strong points. So I think, we sit at the table, we all put our opinions out there. Sometimes they're conflicting. Sometimes we're all on the same page. But I think ultimately I'm all in, and every decision that I make is revolved around what's best for this company. And I think that culture is something that trickles down from the top. So I think that as an adult, I've done a lot of things in my life that have helped me reach this like level of humility and authentic self that I feel like I carry around with me today. And I feel like that carries into my team. I feel like out of all the companies that I've ever worked for, we have the most selfless, just loyal team. It's unbelievable. And it's because of the way that you guys carry yourself, and I feel like I carry myself. And it has just created this family that's just, I mean, the camaraderie that we have is just, it's second to none. And I think that is how we get it done. It's not me by myself, it's my team.
Right.
You know, it's all the people that are involved. That's how we achieve it.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, it boils down to core values, right? It
Exactly.
is 100% core values. And as long as everyone's aligned with that and we have we keep everything in tune with that, you have no option but to make it authentic. You know, so let's change up a little bit. So, you know, potential consumers, clients, they're tuning in, they're listening to this thing. And like, of course I could sit up here and talk about all the amazing things that we do and things that we get wrong and, you know, how we address those things. But from a construction standpoint, what do you think are some of the high quality things that we do that are non-negotiables for the way we build, that are differentiators in the marketplace? So when you look at like your previous experience and what's the norm in construction versus what we do, what are some things that stand out to you?
I would say, first of all, just on a structural level, we do the pole framing with the metal trusses. We do 2x6 exterior walls. We do spray foam insulation. These are all things that every other builder would charge extra for. You know, most builders are going to give you bare bones, and anything you get outside of minimal bare bones, you're going to pay extra for. We do a lot of these things standard. So we do metal siding, metal roof, and one of the benefits of metal siding is, you know, hardy siding, you have to paint every 7 years. So we're using products that are basically maintenance free as far as, you know, paint or having to replace it, like vinyl siding, stuff like that. Even the cabinets that we use, we offer LVP as a standard. A lot of builders use roll vinyl as a standard. LVP is an upgrade. So I would say just bare bones in the door, our standards, 30-40% of them is what someone else would charge extra for. And it's just, we don't want to build track homes. We want our homes to be quality. We want our clients to feel good about what they're getting. And we do the best we can to cater to every price point. And even at that lower price point, those standards are non-negotiable. We don't say, well, you're at this lower price point, so we're not going to give you LVP. We're going to give you carpet and roll vinyl. We don't do that.
Right. Now I was going to say what some of those conversations, you know, is when we examine, we could garner more sales if we would deviate quality. Those die on the table.
Yes.
It's just something that we're not willing to do. And,
Exactly.
you know, and it protects both sides a little bit. So if you're a consumer coming in, like, we do our best to present the most affordable option to build without sacrificing the long-term quality things. Because what we know to be true is you live anywhere long enough, you're going to renovate your kitchen. Exactly. You're going to renovate your bathrooms. You're never going to go back and reframe your house. You're never going to go back and re-insulate your house. And so we just try to take that and you know, deliver something that everybody wants. You know, and another big thing in the Barndominium space is like concrete floors. And we've done plenty of them.
Yeah.
But through experience, we know LVP is a better option for most people. It's not to say if that's what you want, we won't do it. We absolutely will. But we sit down right on the front end and tell you potential drawbacks, limitations, what to expect. And we haven't always done a great job of it because, again, you don't know until you get in the trenches with it and you encounter different things. Like, speak about some of that. Like, I talked a little bit about this with Ross, but everything that we encounter in the field as an issue, it makes us way to that leadership table in some way, shape, form, fashion, and we're always committed to improvement. And like, not just improving the process, but how we communicate it. So like, break that down a little bit. Cause again, I could sit up here and self-glorify it and tell you anything I want you to hear, but you know, from your perspective, how like when we encounter something in the field, how quickly it comes up, how quickly we address it, and then what are the results that follow it?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I call it the Michael Jackson effect, the man in the mirror, and I think that we're really good at that. So when we run into a problem, I think the most important thing to do is to examine what could we have done better in this situation. How could we have alleviated this problem? Like, what could we have done to where this problem wouldn't have happened? And then if you tackle the issue in that way, we get better instead of the client's always wrong. And I think that as long as we're willing to be humble in defeat in these situations and learn from our mistakes, it just makes us better. And our objective is always to have a happy client. Like, how do we change the process to where the client is prepared for this situation? Or how do we describe this better in sales so they have a better understanding? And I think that as we keep that point of view, we're getting better. If it's always somebody else's fault or it's always the sub's fault, then we don't get better and we don't learn from it. And I think that we're able to have that perspective. And I think that that's why we're able to solve issues at such a rapid pace.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and we don't have any shortages of things like, and that's the unique thing about building. Every person's different, but then when you channel in the fact that we're building on your lot, every circumstance is different, and we're covering such a broad area now that even regionally and to the specific municipality, the differentiators that there are in those markets, every rep gets better. And it's just kind of a testament again back to those core values of always growing and leaning into being the best at all costs. And it starts with us. Like we are very slow to transfer a liability or place blame on a consumer or a sub even until we've examined it thoroughly. And inevitably there's going to be some things that you're not going to make this person happy, or these guys really did drop the ball here. They should have known that, and so, but we address everything as if okay, it's our fault. How do we fix it?
Exactly.
And it's been huge to be a part of that. And like I say, we have elements of scale in our business that just amplify how important it is to get in stride, right?
Yeah.
So I was interviewing Alicia, and we were always joking about sales, and it was like, well, we go through this whole process, and then we hand it over to production, so they have a stress-free build. and I was like, I'm going to bring that up in the conversation with Nick, because you guys literally deal with the demon of expectation, because sales is an emotional journey.
Yeah.
And then when it's handed off to construction, it's a logical perspective.
Exactly.
And so you get put in these situations all the time, and I'm always amazed by your ability. And again, there's levels of this. So starts project management, then there's area managers, then it comes to you. And so but your ability to come in and meet a homeowner where they're at, talk through that a little bit. When you're engaging with a homeowner and their experience is so far from their expectation and there's this giant disappointment, how do you navigate that?
I'll tell you, it's the two biggest things are, and especially coming from production style building, you can never forget that this is the biggest investment that someone is ever going to make in their life. It's not just another house. It's not just another lot. This is family land that they were given by their grandfather, or this is land that they saved their entire life to buy. They're putting this land up to get this construction loan to build this house. So you have to understand that this is a stressful experience for anybody. And my wife and I built our own house, and I'm surprised our marriage survived it, So I think that understanding where they're coming from and how important this is and how stressful it is to them is the first thing. And two, it kind of correlates with that, putting yourself in their shoes. And I've actually learned a lot from you about, is this an objection or a complaint? Because it's easy for me to swoop in and be the hero, right? The project manager deals with them every single day. And just like you said, you have logical and emotional. Well, the problem is that, yes, the response is logical, but when the project manager's dealing with the problem on a daily basis, it becomes emotional for him. I'm coming in third party. I'm looking at it from just like I kind of said in the beginning, a perspective what is fair? Because the client has horse blinders on, the project manager has horse blinders on, and the sub has horse blinders on. And I have to look at it from an objective point of view, okay, I understand their complaint. If I was in their shoes, this would frustrate me too. I also understand the plumber's point of view. If I was in his shoes, this would frustrate me too. And I can see how the project manager's frustrated. So I'm able to try to de-escalate that situation and say, okay, I see what the problem is. What's the solution? But before asking what's the solution, I have to take the time to listen to what they have to say. And usually by the time they get finished venting, the solution is simple. They just want somebody to hear their point of view, because to me, it's a small problem. To them, it's a huge problem. You know, they're living in an RV, you know, they're crammed, you know, they have all this stuff going on in their life.
The holidays are coming.
The holidays are coming. And I think you just have to put all that into perspective. And I think too, I don't take myself too seriously. You can't take it personal. You cannot take it personal. It's not personal. They're upset. They're frustrated. To me, it may seem silly, but to them, it's real. And I think that as long as I keep that level of humility when I try to deal with the situation, then I'm always able to get a positive outcome. But if I take it personal and I lash back, you know, then it just creates this whole domino effect of, you know, we're fighting to be right. And if there's one thing I learned from my father growing up, my first girlfriend, my dad said, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Well, dealing with clients is the same way.
Right. That's as clear as you can put it. But like, hey, okay. So you're hearing perspective here from the guy that is responsible for every single project getting built on time with as minimal errors as possible. You know, and he's got to juggle all these client journeys through his team, of course, but that's the perspective on it. So I would say this: if you're leaned in, you're listening and watching, and you're like, hey, you know, how do I prepare myself for that? So from your point of view, what would you say to someone who's sitting here like about to pull the trigger? This has been a dream for them coming in, because we talk about expectations all the time. What would you give them as, hey, here's an expectation to bring to the table day one?
I would say trust the process. We are professionals. We build houses every day. Sometimes you have to have a little bit of faith that if it's wrong, we'll fix it. If it's missing, we'll discover it. And you just have to understand that nothing is guaranteed in construction. Permitting might take a little bit longer. There are a lot of unknowns that come down the pipeline, but ultimately our goal is to build the house as quickly as possible, to build it with the utmost amount of quality as possible. And I think that one thing that we do too is that we're really hands-on with the client. So we share 2 weeks of our schedule with them so they can see what's going on. We post pictures with daily logs with descriptions on this is what's going on, this is what's happening next week. All of our project managers are in constant contact through text, email, phone with the clients. We do multiple on-site meetings. There's no problem that if talked about and put on the table that can't be solved.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that goes back to building this team mentality. Like, it's not us versus you. It's like, it's not Barndo Co versus you, the consumer. It's us together.
Exactly.
Versus the obstacles that may present themselves. And we want you to have the best experience possible. And sometimes there's just misunderstanding.
Exactly.
Lack of experience. But if you see something, if you bring it to the table without emotion and it's just feedback, these are the facts, then we can come together and create a strategy to overcome it, because you're not at the end. Nothing has been finalized. Like, there is a process to overcome any type of obstacle along the way. And again, you're going to have something, and everybody's different. Some people receive this part of the process very easily, and then this part of the process becomes a problem. Other people are the complete opposite of that. And so, you know, there will be days where you see no one on your job. There will, you know, there will be planned dead spots, and then there'll be things that happen, right? Somebody's truck went down, or we had bad weather and now they're playing catch up over here. Anything can throw the build cycle off, you know. But one thing that you talked about with, you know, reporting and the way we interact with the clients is builder trend.
Yeah.
You know, and so again, we weren't always the best at this. It's a process to continuously get better. And so one of the things that we do is we lean in, and every single person in our company uses builder trend from the proposal all the way through to the final handing over of keys. And then we empower the clients with Builder Trend, where they actually put the app on their phone and they can log in and see the weather on that site. Even so, we have a lot of clients that are building in this location and they currently live in another state even. And you can log in and see the weather that's transmitted there from like weather.com and say, okay, this is what the weather looks like on my site. And you could see what the schedule says. You get notified if there's a schedule change, and again, is there holes in that? Yes, but it's always getting better every single day. We're always improving that process of how that communication works. And you have frontline visibility there to communicate. So speak a little bit about Builder Trend and how that is like a blessing, and it can be a curse, but it's also a blessing in the building.
First, I want to say a word from our sponsor, Builder Trend. I'm just kidding. So and I don't ever like trying to put other builders down to try to bring us up, but I mean we have project managers that come from corporate builders where the project manager never even meets the client. They just build the house and then the client gets a walkthrough in the end. Builder Trend, what it does is it's basically a dashboard where the client is involved with us. We can communicate through it. We can send documentation back and forth, and everything is timestamped too. So if you ask a question and that question doesn't get answered, everybody that has full admin in Builder Trend can see it. So it's just this accountability between the client and us. We share our schedule with you. We share pictures, and this is what our plan is. This is what happened this week. This is what's happening next week. Like you said, you can see the weather. It shows the weather for, I think, the next 7 days on there is something like that. So it's an incredible tool for the client to feel like I'm a part of this build. Also, their specs, their plans, everything that we're building their house off of is in a folder that they have access to. So everything that we see when we open up their file to build their house, they also see in Builder Trend. And it's just a level of transparency that I don't think other builders have, and it's a way for your questions and concerns to get ironed out quicker. There's a lot of benefits to it. I mean, to be honest with you, we do a lot of stuff that when I first got here, I was like, man, we shouldn't be doing this. But then I realized this stuff that we do sets us above. So we should be doing it. So.
No, for sure. Well, and there's another hot button subject here that I want to give some perspective on, because it sometimes is, again, expectation experience, but like coming in, we have a pre-construction meeting, RSB, Ready, Set, Barndo, right? That's kind of the first handoff. The baton gets handed from sales, and now they're meeting project management. They're meeting their area manager. Sometimes they meet you, and we map out this whole process, and in that we tell them, once we get this shell in the dry, there's going to be doors and locks. And some people don't know how to receive why we would lock them out from accessing it without making an appointment. And again, a lot of it's safety, but speak into that a little bit, again, about experience.
So, yeah, this is always a point of contention. And every time I'm involved in a pre-construction meeting, this is something that I spend 3 or 4 minutes discussing. So there's multiple reasons. One, we want to be protected from theft. If we don't have locks on the house, a lot of time builder's risk insurance will not cover it. They'll say, you didn't have the house locked, that's your fault. So that is one of the biggest reasons. Two, it's for safety precautions. And it's a big part of our insurance too. We don't want anybody to get hurt. It's not that we don't want you to go look at your cabinets. It's not that we don't feel like you have the right to walk around in the house. We don't want your 8-year-old kid going in there and tripping and falling, stepping on something. So there's a lot of reasons we do it, but we're very, very, very flexible about making sure clients can get in and out anytime that they want.
Well, and it also, I think it leans into, again, some of the concerns that people have if they're standing there with someone like their project manager and they see a concern. A lot of times you can put them at ease as to what's going on. I remember very early on, one of the first barns we built, we framed it up. Homeowners down there every weekend, they're like living on the property, and the plumber went in. He's setting the tubs, these 1-piece units in the spare baths.
Yeah.
And he had to cut some of the studs loose to fit it in the hole. And then the homeowner's walking through and they're like shaking the studs, sending us videos like, what kind of quality is this? What kind of crowd? I would expect more from you guys. And I'm like, it's under construction, And so if they'd have been standing with the project manager, it'd be like, well, how else would they got the tub in there? But like sometimes having unlimited access to the project creates worry that doesn't need to exist.
It does. That's the other reason that I wasn't gonna say, but yeah, I mean it's exactly that. We understand construction better than the people that we build houses for, and
Most of the time,
there are some people that understand construction, but yeah, that's a big reason too. And too, it's we want you to enjoy this process. Like, we don't want any of our clients to be miserable during this process. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes if you have the ability to obsess on too many of the details, it can be counterproductive to the relationship that we have with you. Because ultimately, we have standards that are very high. We have plans and specs that we are going to abide by. How we get there is different every time. If it's missing, if it's broken, if it's not within our standards and our tolerance, we'll fix it. So sometimes it's better for you to just trust the process, allow us to, explain things as they happen, and for us to be involved when you walk the house and have questions, so we can answer them in a proper way.
Yeah, I mean, and I would love to be able to like build these things in a facility and just drag them out there and drop them, But like, again, there is an option for that. It's way more affordable.
It's called Clayton Homes.
Yeah, that's right. And you're able to control that outcome a little more because you're not subject to it, but you're crafting something. It'd be like walking in, I seen this somewhere. I don't remember what it was. It's like, you walk in, dude's baking a cake and he's just got batter in the bowl. You lose your mind. Like, I wanted a cake. What is this mess you made? How are you even going to decorate this thing? It's like, I ain't even put it in the oven, bro. I ain't even baked it yet. And so sometimes it's just you saw it too early in the process. And some people can receive that well, but a lot can't.
Exactly. No, there's a lot of truth in that. It's actually, I'm going to steal this from Dan, but he has a saying that I actually learned from him. Everybody likes sausage, but no one wants to know how it's made.
Yeah.
When you go to a restaurant and you get this beautiful plate of food, if you knew all the steps and processes from distributor to kitchen, you might not enjoy that plate as much.
Right.
That's a proper metaphor.
Yeah. No, for sure. You got to say it in accent, though, if you're going to quote Dan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody loves sausage, but nobody wants to know how it's made.
All right, so this is my favorite part of every episode we do, is barn burner. So these are like questions that, Jenna scoured the internet, got in our groups and found questions from potential consumers, people who are sometimes in the process of building, and I have no idea what the questions are. And so she just hurls them at us and we give our best take on them. So let's try to.
She said when she sent me the email, she said, "Don't be mean." Am I mean?
She was talking to the right room, right? Production, man. So
no, shoot.
No, so our first question is, what does the construction process look like, especially for clients who have never built a house before, like from getting your land and going to see your land to getting the keys?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of our clients have already purchased their land. Some of them have already cleared it. Some of them haven't. So first course of action is the onboarding process. You want to start this process with us. We put you in touch with our designer. There's a thing that you fill out basically to give us a general idea of what it is that you're looking for. What is your budget? What are your non-negotiables? And then we send one of our graders to your land if you want us to do your grading, and we look at the land, determine foundation type, determine what needs to be done, and then you're given a quote based on whether we're clearing trees, how much heavy grading there needs to be, and once all that beginning process is finished, and you've committed to building with us, your plans are finalized, your specs are complete, we sit down and do what we call a Ready Set Barndo meeting. It's a pre-construction meeting, and that's where sales is handing you off to production. And then we make sure that we're all on the same page. We try to answer any concerns, questions that you have. A lot of people have questions about their well, their septic, their dirt. So the next course of action is the project manager meets you out on site, and we determine where you're putting your front door, where we're going to place the house, and we go from there. That's kind of what we go off of.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. This is a question from one of our Facebook groups from JP Abbott. He's wanting to know, is it more cost effective to build 2 stories from a pad or 1 story over a full basement, a third of which will be used as a drive-in shop with a walkout? We are on a hill.
You love basement questions. Dive on in, baby.
It's never more cost efficient to build a basement because you have the walls. So anytime you build a basement, first of all, the grading is much more expensive. You're digging a hole, you're laying your footings down, and then we do form walls. We don't do block. This is another example of, we have our standards and we're going to stick to them. So we do block in some situations, in some regions, but here we do form wall. So you're having to pour walls for that basement that act as a retaining wall. So anywhere where there's dirt up against that basement, those concrete walls basically act as a retaining wall. So that's a pretty major cost in itself. And then when you have a basement, your main floor is a floor system. So there'll be floor joist with subflooring. And so basically you have these concrete walls, this concrete slab, and this floor system on top before you even get to the main living space of the house, which when you just build on a slab, all you have is that slab, which would be like same as your basement floor, minus the floor system that's between the basement and the main floor and the walls. So it's a considerable difference.
Cool.
Hopefully that wasn't
good
too,
answer.
Hopefully that wasn't
that
too
was a great
technical.
answer.
Okay, thank you.
What are some of the benefits of post-frame hybrid building versus stick-built or metal-framed?
Well, that's loaded because post-frame hybrid is something that we kind of coined in the beginning because we were trying to skin a couple different things. And I was not approaching it from solely a construction point of view. It was, what are limiting factors to getting this to the general public? And in our area where we have pretty stringent building codes, and lenders are looking at it going, no way am I lending on something like this. So we had to create a system. So that post-frame hybrid is traditionally, now again, there's always deviations to the rules here, but traditionally monolithic slab, everything's constructed above grade. So we are not putting posts down into the ground. We're building above grade on top of an engineered foundation, the slab. And then we're doing a pole frame on top of that. So it's normally exterior, load bearing, true free span pole barn style builds. And then we utilize steel trusses, and we're not just using hay barn trusses. We get a lot of people online that can't grasp the fact that we're not using traditional ag trusses, angle iron, cheapo trusses. These are structurally engineered, fully enclosed tubing that are fully engineered with their own set of structurals to withstand 135 mile an hour winds for standard, 170 mile an hour winds for the upgrade, and they have the load distributions for residential construction. So that's kind of how the hybrid comes in. So to compare that apples to apples against stick frame, you can lean in a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's aesthetics, some of it's preference. I mean, what makes it what makes our Barndo a Barndo is the poles. And one of the good things about it is, just like you touched on, all the load points are on the exterior, and the trusses are spanning all the way across the house. So especially on a one-story, you don't have any load-bearing interior walls, no load points on the interior. The entire load of the house is being supported on each of these 6x6 posts. So another thing too is, because these metal trusses don't have bottom cords, you have way more attic space.
And the cathedrals in the living areas that most people want, you know.
That was going to be the biggest thing, is that we leave our trusses exposed into the house. So there's 2x4 purlins. We call them purlins, but they're long 2x6s that sit in these structural cups that are built on the top of the trusses, and they're actually screwed into these cups. The roof decking goes on one side, and that's where the metal, we put OSB, and then that's where the metal roofing gets installed. And then on the inside is the sheetrock. So you're basically have this entire metal truss exposed through the house. One of the benefits of wood trusses are there's less limitations. So when you do wood trusses, you can build them on a basement, because the truss is actually just sitting on top of the exterior wall. So whatever exterior wall you have on the main floor, your truss sits on that wall. When you do pole frame with metal trusses, that load from the ceiling has to go all the way down to concrete in a footing. That's why we generally only do metal trusses on a slab, because that 6x6 post is anchored into that slab. And whether it's a 1-story or a 2-story, that's how high we set that post to get our ceiling height. So with the wood trusses, you can do more custom roof lines and designs. And so just depending on what you're going for, there's pros and cons to both. I don't know if that answers it.
That was perfect.
Yep. Well, that's great. Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Nick. And
I was about to get up.
Yeah, letting everybody like meet you. He's like, I got stuff to do, you know. But
Yeah.
no, it's important. Like, you know, it's not just the face they see all the time. There is a whole team running in the background,
There is.
making things awesome, and you've done a great job helping us maintain the standard. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the Barndo Show podcast. If you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this content, hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And then be sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms at the Barndo Co. Super simple to find us. And then when you're ready to dive in a little more, maybe look around some of our available floor plan options, or take a look at the gallery of our work, or maybe you're ready to connect with our team and explore what it looks like to build your dream barndominium, you can visit us online at thebarndoco.com.